What's up, guys? Today we'll be doing a full first round post combine mock draft. The combine really helped clear up some things about what teams are looking for and how athletic some of these players really are. It obviously didn't do as much as free agency will, but in this one we will be doing trades because especially in the top 10 picks, there are going to be a ton of trades probably. So we will be doing trades. Yeah, here we go. All right, so I've been contemplating whether or not the Bears should be doing a trade back 2 times, and I've done multiple mock drafts trying to see what's the best option. And obviously trading out of 1 for me is the best option. They can get a ton of capital here. This is something maybe I'm not really sure what it's gonna cost, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. And I think Bryce Young's easily the best quarterback in the draft. CJ Stroud close second with his accuracy. Texans, I feel like sit here and they honestly need a quarterback that they can, believe in day one. And I think that's going to be CJ Stroud. Anthony Richardson would be a project. I still think Anthony Richardson's probably going to start day one though, with whatever team he goes to. I think that the Cardinals want to trade back, but it's just not a good spot for them. Like the top 2 quarterbacks are going to go here. Maybe any of these really, 5 teams could come up and try and get a quarterback if they trust in Anthony Richardson. They could also just sit there and wait because the Bears have the spot which you may want to trade up for. And the Cardinals really need edge. They also need guard a ton, but obviously that's too early to get guard. So we're going to go ahead and take Will Anderson. Like I said, I was debating a double trade back, and I think I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it with the Panthers. The Panthers got Frank Reich, so they seem like a team that they need a younger quarterback that they can develop. They've tried the veteran process. Frank Reich has tried the veteran route in Indy. Both of those parties are probably over that and are looking to get a young guy they can work with and be the franchise quarterback. And that's going to be Anthony Richardson. I feel like those should be the top 3 taken. Anthony Richardson's potential is so much higher than Will Levis's, in my opinion. And nothing against Will Levis, but me personally, I would invest in Anthony Richardson and feel better about that investment over Will Levis just because of his ceiling. But with the Seahawks here, I've seen people taking Tyree Wilson, cornerback, quarterback. And then there was that Jalen Carter story. And quite frankly, I'm not really buying into it. If you really look into what happened, I just can't see him, jail time doesn't make sense. And I know he's had character issues, but if that might be it, that might be the only thing Todd McShay was talking about. And the Seahawks need defensive line help a ton. So will Pete Carroll pass on him? Probably the best prospect in the draft, up there with Will Anderson and Bryce Young. I would not. I'm taking Jalen Carter there. That's a massive improvement to their defensive line instantly. They could go edge at their 20 pick, or they could go corner. We'll see who falls to us, but you can't pass on Jalen Carter at 5, in my opinion. He probably should have went top 2, but those teams need quarterbacks. So with the Lions. Let's see, Dan Campbell has said that he was thinking about, they're open to taking quarterback. Maybe Will Levis could sit behind Jared Goff and learn. And I think if that happens, Will Levis could be very scary. Throwing him in there right away, I'm not really sure I believe in him to succeed his first year. And most likely one of these quarterbacks is going to fail. It's just how it ends up working out. It's unfortunate because obviously we would want all of these quarterbacks to do good. But that's just not how it ends up working out most of the time. But anyway, with the Lions here, there's the top 2 corners on the board. Tyree Wilson's still here, but they did just draft Aiden Hutchinson, so it might not be their, biggest need. And to me, it just seems kind of like a Dan Campbell pick. And I know this isn't something you should be basing your picks off of, like personality and stuff. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he is picking his players, and I mean, if you watch the way Devon Witherspoon plays, he has that aggression that Dan Campbell seems like he would enjoy. So we're going to go Devon Witherspoon. They need cornerback help. Witherspoon and Okudah, I feel like, could develop into a really good cornerback duo. And then with the Raiders here, who knows what they're going to do at quarterback. They're kind of like the last team here. They missed out on the top 3. Will Levis could be the guy. You know, obviously, like, Derek Carr just got signed to the Saints. They obviously got rid of him. I believe it's the GM and the owner, or the GM and the head coach, have said that they're not looking at going with Aaron Rodgers, which doesn't leave them many options outside of rookie quarterbacks. So I think I'm going to go Will Levis here, and I think with the value at 7, that's where Will Levis should fall. That would be a good pick there. They have their quarterback, and they can build around that, although they do need a lot of defensive help. And then the Falcons at 8, they have Grady Jarrett. He's getting older. Their offense is low-key starting to develop. They have Kyle Pitts, Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, Drake London. They just said they're not going to be going for Lamar Jackson. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means they're looking at quarterback in this draft. And if this is the way it plays out, they shouldn't be, unless it's later in another round, which is still questionable, considering that none of those quarterbacks would be a much bigger improvement over Desmond Ridder. And they really need edge help. And look who's still here is Tyree Wilson. And I think I'm going to go Tyree Wilson. It's just, too much potential there. They need edge help. Good value pick. Might as well just go best player available there, in my opinion. And then here we are with the Bears. And let's just take a look at the draft capital that we've acquired with trades that I've made that could be better or worse. We got the 9 pick. We got Indy's 2nd, Carolina's 2nd, 3 first rounds next year, 2 in 2025, 2 first rounds next year. I don't think that's too far of out of reality. They could have insane amounts of draft capital. I don't know if 3 first round picks is preferable. At that point, you're kind of banking on a draft class. And I do think 2024 and 2025's draft class are going to be better than this year's. But that's an insane amount of capital, and it's very reasonable for them to get that in this year's draft, considering the fact they don't need quarterback. So at 9, they need to help Justin Fields out. And I'm looking at offensive line or wide receiver or really best player available. I'm not really sure it's the year to go wide receiver. This seems kind of high for all of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to the trenches and get Peter Skoronski. I feel like he's probably the best tackle, up there with Paris Johnson Jr. You're building your O-line. Fields didn't really have good protection last year. And they know they're not going to be able to compete that much this year or in 2023. So you might as well keep building the O-line and the D-line. D-line is another position I would have went maybe there if there was a good prospect that I liked. Not the biggest fan of Lucas Van Ness there, at least. Maybe Nolan Smith. I like him up here. And then at 10 with the Eagles, they have a very interesting amount of possibilities here. Gardner Johnson is not going to get the franchise tag. Who knows if they're going to sign him back? That's surprising to me, considering the fact they traded for him. And earlier on, they said they were going to tag him. Bradbury might not be back. I believe they have a good amount of free agents going on the D-line. So some prospects I'm looking at. Nolan Smith all the way up here. He had a crazy combine. They also need DB help with Gardner Johnson and let's see, is it Epps that's leaving? Maybe. And Bradbury. So I'm really looking at Brian Branch or Christian Gonzalez. And Christian Gonzalez might be the top cornerback in the draft here. So I'm going to go him. Darius Slay and Christian Gonzalez would be pretty scary. And, somehow the Eagles team seems to improve there. Not that Bradbury's bad, but younger player, less money. They have to pay Jalen Hurts. So another sneaky pick there could be Bijan Robinson. And I know that's going to be hated on, but I mean, if they don't sign Miles Sanders back, then what are they going to do at running back? Kenneth Gainwell is their 1? I don't see it. Anyway, with the Titans at 11, I'm looking at wide receiver and I'm looking at offensive line. Taylor Lewan is now a free agent, which means they're going to need offensive line help. And Apparently Derrick Henry's on the trade block. I don't get that at all. Maybe they're completely going in a different direction, which kind of makes me a little bit uncertain with this pick. But I'm going to go offensive line. I would have gone Peter Skoronski here if he was still there. I kind of want to go Broderick Jones because he seems to be a little bit of a mauler, better run blocker. I'm going to stick with the best tackle, and I'm going to go Paris Johnson Jr. And, you know, that's an instant replacement for Taylor Lewan. And then we have the Texans at 12. And wide receiver's been popular here. I really want to match up CJ Stroud with Jackson Smith and Jigba. But, I mean, the Texans kind of need an X, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is like the perfect slot. So that doesn't really make sense. But they might just do that because it's a pairing. It adds up. Just think about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. It could be crazy. However, I'm not really sure they're going to go offense here. They obviously need help on defense still. They picked Derek Stingley last year. I think it's Okoronkwo, maybe is his name. I might be getting that wrong, but he's going to be a free agent, which makes me kind of look at edge here. And personally, I see Nolan Smith being the best edge here. If you look back, before Nolan Smith got injured, people were looking at him as a top 10 pick, and I feel like he has that in him still. He's a great leader, very motivated player, aggressive, super athletic, and not scared to take on bigger guys on the O-line. I've considered Myles Murphy here. I don't know. I just don't see D'Amico Ryans going Lucas Van Ness here, and therefore I'm going to go Nolan Smith, which makes their first two picks CJ Stroud and Nolan Smith. That's an A+ draft so far for me. I don't really see how anyone else could think differently on that. And then with the Jets, I truly think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. They just had a meeting, and apparently it went well. Now it's just up to Aaron Rodgers, which is kind of the same way it played out for the Saints and Derek Carr. They had a meeting, and then it was up to Derek Carr. And it obviously takes time for stuff to get done. It's not like they're just going to go make a deal and then leave and then announce it. Like, it takes time to work stuff out. So if you get Aaron Rodgers, why would you want to have a bad O-line? I think Broderick Jones is the best tackle sitting there. Maybe even Darnell Wright has worked himself up into this type of conversation, but might as well protect Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're going to have to give up the 13 pick for him. Maybe they will. Who knows? But from what I've heard, they won't. And therefore, that offense is looking pretty scary. Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis. I'm not sure which of those receivers are free agents. I know a lot of them had some issues with receptions and targets. But get Zach Wilson to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. I still don't really believe Zach Wilson will pan out, but it'd be better than sitting behind anyone else. And then we have the Patriots here. The Patriots need some help. They would maybe need a wide receiver, but they did just take Tyquan Thornton. I don't really see it happening. Honestly, I think Devin McCourty's going to be a free agent. Let's see. I believe they have Marcus Jones. They have Jack Jones. They really do need corner help. They also need kind of safety help, to put it next to Duggar. And I think I'm going to go Brian Branch here. Alabama to New England just seems like a good pipeline to me, with the way Nick Saban runs his team and Bill Belichick runs his team. And Brian Branch could play in the slot. He could play nickel, and he can play safety. So if they don't sign Devin McCourty, Brian Branch can pretty much plug the hole wherever they have that. And actually at 15, I'm going to go ahead and do a trade down, and that's going to be with the Steelers. I'm not sure what the compensation is going to be here, but let's just say they use a 4th round to get up here. Go ahead and offer that. And take a guess at who I'm going to pick. It's very popular, but it's going to be Joey Porter Jr. They need corner help. Obviously, his dad played for the Steelers, won them a Super Bowl. You've heard it over and over, but it really does make sense. And the reason I traded up for it, didn't really cost too much, is because Washington also needs corner help. But with Washington, I don't know. They have some solid corners. It's too much of a fit to risk losing him to Washington. The Packers can trade down. They need some help for Jordan Love, but they'll be able to get that at 17. It's only 2 picks down. Anyway, for Washington, what am I going to do now that Joey Porter's gone? Well, they need offensive line help, and let's see who we have here. All the way down here is who I'm looking at. I think Darnell Wright has earned himself a first-round pick, or earned himself a spot in the conversation of first-round pick. Maybe they need guard more, but I think they go Darnell Wright here. Sam Howell is, I guess, going to be the quarterback for a year. We'll see how long that lasts, but might as well get Darnell Wright. He seems like he could be a good tackle for a long time. And then with the Packers, they really do need, weapons on the offense. I don't really know why Packers fans don't like this pick, but I'm looking at tight end, and I'm going to go Dalton Kincaid. He probably is the best receiving threat in the entire draft. So if you wanted a receiver, Dalton Kincaid might be better than having a receiver. I'm not sure how Kincaid's blocking ability is, but he's good at contested catches, good at route running, probably the best receiver in the draft. So it's essentially them taking a receiver, which you guys have been waiting for a while. There was still Quentin Johnston there, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Zay Flowers, all the receivers still there, but I think Dalton Kincaid has the highest potential. He could be something along the lines of, I don't know, I can't say Travis Kelce, but a good tight end, Pro Bowl type tight end. I see it in him. So the Lions' biggest weakness last year was the defense. Their offense was starting to get into gear. They didn't even really use Jameson Williams that much. They already have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had some injuries. So I see them going defense here. We got Devon Witherspoon up here. It looks like their second cornerback spot is filled up. Or maybe he goes to 1 and Jeff Okudah goes to 2. They have Aiden Hutchinson. But that interior defensive line is still a little iffy. And they kind of need some help stopping the run. And obviously that's going to be interior defensive linemen then. And Kalijah Kancey and Brian Bresee are the only 2 that I'm kind of looking at 18. And with Brian Bresee's combine, I'm going to go Brian Bresee. He was a 5-star recruit. I believe he might have been the number 1 in his recruitment class. But he had a lot of off-field issues, as you've definitely heard over and over. He had some injuries, some sicknesses, and many think his best football is still ahead of him. I believe that too. I believe that almost might be a steal at 18. Maybe if he played on a different team or didn't have as many off-field issues that were out of his control, he might be a top 10 pick. Good pick there. And now Brian Bresee on their defense, Aiden Hutchinson, Devon Witherspoon. And now I think they're probably a playoff team. They barely missed it last year. Unfortunate, but who knows? Maybe they go Bijan Robinson here. That's another option, depending on what they do with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. And then with the Bucks, if Nolan Smith falls here, they'd be lucky. They should get Nolan Smith in that case. But I still think they need edge help. They actually do need kind of a lot of help. Maybe I'm looking at corner here, but I'm going to go Myles Murphy. He's another Clemson edge rusher. Not that Brian Bresee was an edge rusher, but Myles Murphy at one point was thought to be a top 10 pick, but instead he kind of didn't produce as much. I think he had an injury last year too. He's a big guy. He's got the body to be an NFL edge rusher. What the Bucks really need is a quarterback, but at this point it's too early to get one of the quarterbacks left, and I don't see them trading up to get one of these guys. Maybe they wait. They kind of seem like they're in a rebuild year after that Tom Brady era, which maybe is good for them. Maybe they just need to rebuild, reset, and then try and go for another Super Bowl later on. Then with the Seahawks here, and an underrated need for them is actually cornerback. Obviously, Tyreek Woolen is going to be the one. Had a great rookie season. But if you look at the second and third corners, I mean, Kobe Bryant, he was all right. He was an aggressive tackler, but his coverage skills were subpar at best. Hard for me to say that. I'm rooting for him because of the UC connection, but it is what it is. And then Michael Jackson, to me, is not like a a second cornerback. He might be a good third. Not sure how he plays in the slot. Up here, we got Jalen Carter, so we address D-line. I think they can address D-line later on. They have a lot. Let's see. They have 37 and 51. Those are picks that they can get edge rushers still. Good edge rushers. So I would be looking maybe at edge there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go Deonte Banks. I forget his exact measurements, but I think he's 6'2". He ran under a 4'4", 4'36", 4'38", something like that. It just fits their mold for corner, so it makes a ton of sense. Tyreek Woolen, Deonte Banks. Obviously, Legion of Boom was its own thing, but you know, they get Jamal Adams back, Tyreek Woolen, they have Jalen Carter. That defense is looking scary. And I know they might need receiver help with Tyler Lockett getting older and DK Metcalf as the one. So they might need a second or a third. So maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba there. But Deonte Banks makes them maybe a top 10 corner duo in the league. And then with the Chargers here, obviously they need wide receiver help. And to me, it's not just any type of receiver. They have Keenan Allen. Who knows what they're going to do with him? They have Mike Williams, Jordan Palmer. So I don't really see them needing like a big guy. That's Mike Williams for them. And that would be Quentin Johnston. So I don't think they go Quentin Johnston. They kind of have their slot guy. Maybe they go Jackson Smith and Jigba. But, you know, the talk is that Justin Herbert needs someone to go deep and show off his arm, and they don't have that yet. And I think the best player available here, at least at wide receiver, for that skill set is either Jalen Hyatt or Zay Flowers. I'm going to go Zay Flowers. He seems to be a lot more complete as a player. I think that's a good pick. Scary offense now. Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, Zay Flowers, Mike Williams, maybe Keenan Allen. Good O-line. I believe Rashawn Slater was injured, so he'll be back. That's a scary offense. And then with the Ravens, they put a non-exclusive tag on Lamar Jackson. I'm not a fan of that. I feel like the Ravens really screwed over Lamar. It seems like they got lazy, didn't want to negotiate the contract. Maybe they weren't lazy, maybe it was just rough. Lamar wasn't agreeing to anything. Who knows? But that's a weird situation. It doesn't look like many teams are in on Lamar. Also weird. But let's say Lamar goes back. Or really, whoever goes back to the Ravens, they're going to need a wide receiver. And the best wide receiver here in terms of being an X is going to be Quentin Johnston. They have Rashad Bateman. He'll be coming back off an injury. Devin Duvernay. So they finally get their X. I feel like that's a good pick. Ravens fans, I believe you'll agree with me there. That might even be like good value. Who knows if Quentin Johnston falls that far? A lot of teams do need receivers still. Next up, we have the Vikings. You know, they just cut Eric Kendricks. They need corner help. They might need a wide receiver. So maybe they even look at Jackson Smith and Jigba, which is an unpopular pick, but makes sense to me. You know, they're looking to make the playoffs. They were right on the edge of being like a pretty elite team. They obviously made the playoffs, but they had so many close games. And I think their defense was more of the problem than their offense. Obviously, Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson were their own thing. And I don't see a reason why in the first round they would want to switch that up. Maybe later on they go receiver, but not here. This is where actually I'm going to take the first linebacker. And to me, the options here are going to be Drew Sanders or Trenton Simpson. I'm going to go Trenton Simpson. He kind of, to me, covers the field more athletic. Had a pretty good combine. We'll see what he does at his pro day. That's a good pick to me. They need help at linebacker now. And Trenton Simpson's going to be the guy who could be just as good as Eric Kendricks. With the Jags here, I know for a while everyone's been giving them Michael Mayer. And I don't see that being the case. There's a lot of options they have here. Their team's pretty good for having the first pick last year. But I'm not completely confident in their cornerback class. And I know Tyson Campbell's been doing well, but you know, outside of him, Cisco's their safety. You know, I just don't have that much confidence in their corner class. They could surely improve that. And Emmanuel Forbes has been getting a ton of hate on his size, so he would be an option here. But I think Cam Smith's, he just seems like a Jaguar to me. There they go with Tyson Campbell, Cam Smith, solid corner duo. A lot of these teams getting really good secondaries, which nowadays you need against some of these crazy wide receivers. Yeah, I think maybe they go guard, maybe they go receiver there. Although they just got Kelvin Ridley, he just got reinstated, so I like Cam Smith there. And then with the Giants, they need wide receiver help. I think they're good with Daniel Bellinger at tight end. Maybe they need edge help a little bit. They have or not edge help. They really don't need that. They have Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeaux, who had a really good rookie season. But I think they just franchise tagged Saquon, just signed Daniel Jones. Why not keep going that route? Make the offense as good as possible. And I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is a good pick here. In my opinion, he's the best receiver in the draft. I believe he's going to produce a ton his rookie season. Had a tough last year with Ohio State with his injury, but kind of worked out for the Giants here. In my opinion, I had a mock draft early on that had him going top 10, top 15, and I think he has that type of skill set. You saw it in his combine with his 3-cone. He had some crazy movement, agility, and then with the Cowboys, they what they really need and what Jerry Jones probably wants is that second wide receiver. I feel like their wide receiver group is a little bit slept on though. Let's see, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown, all of those people were doing really well last year. Jerry Jones seems to kind of go with what the majority of the media thinks. I'm thinking they go wide receiver here. The best wide receiver left is Jordan Addison. Maybe they can go Jalen Hyatt. I like Josh Downs. He's slept on, but it seems like the NFL is sleeping on him a little bit too. So I'm going to go Jordan Addison. That gives them CeeDee Lamb, Jordan Addison, Michael Gallup. Maybe they look at tight end there. There's a lot of good ones still. Michael Mayer would replace Dalton Schultz pretty well. Maybe even better. Luke Musgrave's up there. Darnell Washington's up there. I could see Washington. I like Washington really with most of these teams here. Jordan Addison there fills a need. And then on to the Bills. Another boring but popular pick is what I'm actually going to go with. And that's going to be guard. They really need guard help. They can't have Josh Allen running around, getting pressure from the inside, which is tough to evade. And luckily, O'Cyrus Torrence fell. So we're going to go O'Cyrus Torrence. Maybe they go Bijan Robinson there. I feel like they picked James Cook for a reason. Maybe they sign one of the free agent running backs. There's some good ones. I believe Madison's out there. I'm forgetting a lot. D'Ernest Johnson. There's definitely some good ones for sure. And there's still a lot of good prospects here. But with the Bengals, they're going to need offensive line help. I'm not really sure I like any of these guys in the first round still. They really need tackle help specifically. Maybe they go DeJuan Jones. I did that in my 7-round video with them. I think it's a perfect fit. It really is. I'm going to go Darnell Washington for the Bengals. If they don't get Hayden Hurst back, that offense is scary with Darnell Washington. People forget Washington was probably the best blocker. Who knows what's happening with Mixon right now? Like I said, that maybe they go Bijan Robinson. I know a lot of people have been having problems fitting Robinson in the first round. I think Robinson for sure goes first. He's too good to not. And he probably goes higher than this. Maybe a team trades up for him. That seems to be what happens with players like this. They'll fall maybe to the 20s and then someone will trade up and get him. Maybe even someone like the Texans or one of these first teams who have a lot of draft capital. Or even the Bears, really. Right in this range is where I'm looking at someone to trade up for them. But I'm not going to do that. The Saints sit here. This is tough because there's a ton of good prospects left. Do they need tight end help? Yeah, probably. Juwan Johnson might not get re-signed back. He might. He did pretty good. If they do that, then they don't have to. I would have liked Darnell Washington to the Saints too. Obviously, I probably know the most about the Saints because they're my favorite team. And that's in regards to every other team. But, they just got Derek Carr. They probably get Michael Thomas back. They have Chris Olave. They have Rashid Shaheed. Hopefully they don't cut Andres Pete. I feel like their offensive line is pretty set. Defense needs some help too. I could see them signing back David Onyemata. Cam Jordan's there. They might need edge help. They're still hoping Peyton Turner plays out. Can't see Marcus Davenport coming back. Corner group is alright. Maybe they need some safety help, but there's no safeties left here that I can see them going with. Maybe Johnson, but I still feel like that might be a reach. He might fall to 42. Kamara, suspension. You really can't go with Eno Benjamin as your number one if you're trying to make playoffs and go on a Super Bowl run with Derek Carr, which is what they're doing. They could have easily not signed Derek Carr, and they could have just, went with someone lesser or cheaper, really is what I meant. And therefore, I'm going to go by Bijan Robinson. I believe Kamara's 28, and if they go Robinson, that'd be obviously an insane 1-2. But most likely, one of those players is or Kamara would probably have to get traded or cut or something, which would be tragic to me because I love Alvin Kamara, I have his jersey, but I would understand the pick because Robinson's a generational talent. That'd be scary. Derek Carr, Bijan Robinson, Chris Olave, MT. You know what I'm saying. And then with the Eagles, they lucked out. Ton of good players here. Let's see, with their 10 pick, we went Christian Gonzalez, so they fixed that corner spot, and I'm really liking their secondary so far. I wish they would sign Gardner Johnson back. Big fan of him. Hated when the Saints traded him, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And like I said earlier, they have some edge problems. And Lucas Van Ness fell here. I'm going to go with Lucas Van Ness. I do feel like he was probably the best edge prospect left. There's some good ones. Maybe, I don't know, it's something about BJ Ojolari. Seems like he would fit the edge group with the Eagles. Maybe it's like somewhat of a similarity between him and Hassan Reddick. Tamiwa Adebawore could also be going somewhere up here. All of these teams would prefer edge help. Who has enough edge help? Like no one. Like you always need a rotation. But with the Chiefs as the last pick, the Super Bowl champions, they kind of have a luxury pick here. Should they go wide receiver? I don't think so. They just got Kadarius Toney. He did good for them through the playoffs. They're probably going to sign back Juju. He wants to go back. Why wouldn't you? You have Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback probably of all time. And they have Sky Moore. They have Mecole Hardman. I don't think they need to go wide receiver here. Maybe they do that later down in the draft. I think they could go D-line here. And I think they could pair Kalijah Kancey with Chris Jones. And then they have George Karlaftis, Kalijah Kancey, Chris Jones. They cut Frank Clark, so they do need some D-line help. But here's the draft. I think this is pretty good. I feel like a lot of teams address their needs here. And a lot of times that's not how it ends up playing out. And if I completely fumbled your team, let me know. Let me know who you would rather have picked. Let me know who you think didn't make it in the first round that should. I'm sure there's a lot of players that you guys have in mind, as do I. That's going to be the end of this video for the post-combine mock draft. I will end up doing a first or two-round mock draft. Free agency is in 1 week or 6 days now, so that will help clear up a ton of these picks. A lot of these needs are going to be addressed in free agency. Some of them won't, which will make it pretty obvious on what the team needs to do. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But that'll be it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.